My name is Norma, I'm 36 years old, and I am a citizen of Canada. I'm making this testimonial video for Dr. Prasad Bapat, and I have just successfully completed Kshar Sutra treatment with him. So I'd like to give a little background about myself. About a year ago, I think it's pretty much a year ago to the day, I developed an abscess in my rectum. But because of how it swelled, one of my labia swelled up, the doctors did not know what was wrong with me. So it took them 6 weeks of excruciating agony just to discover that it was in fact an abscess and to discover where it was. And throughout that process I had one surgery that was not necessary because they drained the wrong area. I had one surgery that failed and one surgery that was finally successful. The surgery that failed was an internal drainage through my rectum, and the doctor that I was working with had not seen an abscess in the area that I had one very often. So when he did the surgery, I suppose he tried his best, but it did not work. The second surgery, I had to have the abscess drained externally, which was very, very painful, and it took a long time to recover from. Because of all of the surgeries that I had, I developed a fistula. And unfortunately for me, it was a high, complicated, front-facing fistula, which went through both sphincter muscles. The surgeons that I was dealing with back home in Canada seemed like they did not want to touch me. Well, with my fistula, it leaked feces, which was, of course, it was something that absolutely decimated my self-esteem. My fistula deteriorated my mental health, my spiritual health, my emotional health, my self-image. At 36, having to deal with issues of leaking feces in an area that was very, very close to my vagina, I very, very quickly started to become depressed. And so if you're watching this and you are suffering from a fistula, know somebody who is suffering from a fistula, I would like you to know that you're not alone, and that if you're feeling depressed or hopeless or helpless, I certainly understand, and I know many people who do understand as well. And to be perfectly honest, because of the long journey it took for me to get diagnosed with an abscess and have it drained after multiple surgeries and months back and forth to the hospital, back and forth to doctors, I honestly became suicidal because it was just such a depressing issue. It was such a hopeless issue, and I did not know at that point in time if I would ever be able to get my life back again. My colorectal surgeon in Canada gave me 3 options, and one was to leave my ceton in forever, which would mean that I would have to deal with issues of leaking feces for the rest of my life, or as long as I had the ceton in. And as I said, I'm only 36, so that's very young to be dealing with issues like that. One thing that he did not tell me, and that none of my doctors told me, and if you're watching this you might know if you have a fistula that leaks feces, is that it's not just a matter of it leaks and then you go home. When the stool is on the area, it really chafes the area, and it can actually, at least for me, it caused the area to crack and to bleed, and it was really very painful. So it was very painful physically as well as emotionally. My other option was to have lift surgery, which my colorectal surgeon said had a 60% success rate, and that was the surgery he recommended to me. The second option was to have advanced flap procedure, and that had a 70% chance of succeeding. So by the time I had gone through my journey of developing the abscess, having that drained multiple times, developing a fistula, back and forth to the doctors. Thankfully, I am a librarian by trade, so that means I specialize in finding information. And I had been doing my own research, trying to learn about surgical options to help heal fistulas, and I had learned about Kshar Sutra treatment. So once my colorectal surgeon gave me my options, I kind of had lost faith in the Canadian medical system for fistulas. I think that the Canadian medical system is great for many, many things, but when it comes to fistulas, it really concerned me that an expert in that field in Canada can give a patient a surgical treatment option with a success rate that, in my opinion, is low, 70%, and be fine with that. I was not fine with that. I had been through multiple surgeries in my anal area, and it can be excruciatingly painful. Thankfully, I had done a lot of research and I had learned about Kshar Sutra, and I knew as soon as I saw this option that that's the option that I wanted to have. But the problem was that it is not legal to do outside of India. So I had to make the decision about whether or not I wanted to leave my ceton in forever, and I did not. Whether I wanted to have a surgery from the colorectal surgeon in Canada, and I honestly did not. For me, I felt like my doctors did not treat me with empathy or as a human being. I felt like I was a file on their desk. I felt like they were treating a body part and not even seeing me as a human being. And this had gone on for months and months. Months of sleepless nights, months of not eating, months of horrifically invasive tests, and of course because of the area, it can be embarrassing, especially as a lady, and especially because my fistula was between my vagina and my anus. It was very, very humiliating to have to go to all these doctors and have people examine the area and look at the body part and only treat the body part almost as if I wasn't in the room. So it was important to me that I have a treatment that worked, and from all of my research, Kshar Sutra, from what I researched, had a success rate in the high 90s, which far beat, in my opinion, a success rate of 70%, which is one of the surgical options I was given back home. Kshar Sutra has a very, very, very low recurrence rate, and that really was important to me as well, because after having gone through this, after having had so many people have to examine me in my most private areas and just treat me as if I were a piece of meat, I guess, a body part, I wanted, if I was going to have anything to fix this fistula issue, and I knew I did want something to fix this fistula issue, I did not want to live the rest of my life leaking feces. I wanted to have one procedure, and I wanted it to be done. I wanted my fistula to be cured, and I did not want it to come back ever again. So, my research led me to several doctors, and I thoroughly investigated as many as I decided to check into. I was given a lot of hope when I found Dr. Bapat's website, and he has a wonderful web presence because I believe he wants to help spread the word about this wonderful treatment. I was given hope when I found his website. He's a very, very knowledgeable man about fistulas, and he does many other things as well, but I'm concentrating on fistulas because that's what I did. That's why I came here. He was knowledgeable, extremely educated, and he very, very wisely posted testimonial videos of other clients, and here I am doing one of my own. I hope that this helps somebody. So I watched those videos over and over and over and over again. But I was still hesitant because it seems like if you have a high complicated fistula and you live in Canada, then your surgical options aren't good, and these are also, colorectal surgeons in Canada are also very well educated people. So even though I had watched the testimonials that Dr. Bapat had other clients do, I was still nervous because I thought there's no way that this can possibly be real. It seems like such a simple procedure, and I know it's not simple. You really do need a medical expert to do this, which Dr. Bapat is. But it seems like such a a miraculous treatment. And I wondered, why is it that this treatment has helped heal thousands of people? Kshar Sutra has been practiced in India for thousands and thousands of years. Why is it that nobody in Canada that I spoke to, none of my surgeons or doctors, they didn't seem to know about this? But I did believe in Kshar Sutra, and I had already done my research previously, so my main hurdle at that point was to find a reputable doctor. Seeing the testimonials that Dr. Bapat posted gave me hope, but I was still a bit skeptical. Luckily, I found a way to contact several of Dr. Bapat's previous clients. And I would like to give a wholehearted thank you to Harpinder, to Nick and Yvette, to Yovka and Veslin, and also to Lance, because they really went above and beyond to speak with me on the phone, video chat, multiple emails back and forth, and they just basically said, this guy is, Dr. Bapat is, not only is he legitimate, and not only is he an amazing doctor, he's a wonderful person too. So with that said, having found that out, I plucked up the courage to email Dr. Bapat, and I had tried to contact several other doctors as well. But Dr. Bapat got back to me within, I would say, about 4 or 5 hours. I honestly can't remember. But I do remember that I sent him a very long email. It was kind of difficult to write because I felt like if I was going to be able to get my fistula treated, to get my fistula cured, and get my life back, that Kshar Sutra was my best hope. At the same time that I had emailed Dr. Bapat, I emailed another very reputable doctor, and he didn't get back to me. And I had such heart-wrenching experiences with my Canadian doctors that I thought, if I email Dr. Bapat and he doesn't get back to me, or he gets back to me but he's very dismissive, I knew that that would be something that really deflated me, and I'd already been through so much at that point in time. Luckily for me, he got back to me within hours. A long, detailed message explaining what he could do, answering any questions that I had. So I sent my medical documents to him, and he got back to me telling me how long he thought treatment would take. And with that, I had my doctor, and even though it was a difficult decision, I made the decision to come to India. And I say it was a difficult decision because with my journey with the abscess and then with the fistula, because it took the doctors in Canada so long to even find out what was wrong with me, by then I had gone through all of my sick time, my overtime, my vacation time at work. I had absolutely nothing left. I was worried, am I going to have to take more time off of work and not be paid? Am I going to lose my house if I can't pay my bills? So it was a difficult decision to make to come to India because I had to wait and build up sick time again and build up overtime. But even still, with that, and with, of course, the cost of having to travel to India, it didn't matter. I had spoken with several of Dr. Bapat's clients. They were wonderful. They were real people. I remember when the first person I spoke to was Yvette, who is Nick's wife. And after speaking to her, I just honestly started to cry because she was real, and this treatment was real, this doctor was legitimate, and there was a possibility I could get my life back. And by the time I had emailed Dr. Bapat, I worried that I would never be able to get my life back ever again. But he was real, and so I made the decision to come to India. I worked a lot of overtime. I saved up every last bit of vacation time, sick time I could, and I came to India. And as soon as I was already confident in my decision before I traveled to India, which of course I would be, or else I wouldn't have come, but there's always that small little bit of worry that this might not work out. As soon as I met Dr. Bapat, I knew that I was in the right hands. And it's something that I can't really quite explain except to say that my mind was put so much at ease at the fact that he treated me like a human being right from the very, very, very start. After every treatment, we landed in India, in Pune, India, on a Sunday, and then very jet-lagged. We went to Dr. Bapat's office for an exam and blood work on Monday, and the blood work came back fine. And so the next day, Tuesday, it was time for treatment. Now, I have a very low pain tolerance, and so I was very, very nervous about how this treatment would go. I had had multiple treatments, surgeries in that area, and for me, it's a very sensitive area. But I have to say, considering that it is such a sensitive area, and considering that this is a treatment that is meant to very, very, very slowly and as gently as possible cut through the fistula area, the treatment was great. For me, there was some discomfort and there was some pain, but it was absolutely nothing that was debilitating. My husband and I, throughout treatment, we went all over Pune, we hiked up mountains, we walked all over as far as we could. One of Dr. Bapat's recommendations was to walk. Walk. That helps the medicine be released from the threads and get into the infected area, and it also helps the threads work through the fistula. So I made sure every day to get on the treadmill at the hotel that we're staying at and walk at least 2 kilometers a day, and on top of that, we were out and about in Pune, walking, seeing museums, really enjoying the culture here, enjoying the life here. So this is absolutely a treatment that is minimally invasive. It's a treatment you go and you visit Dr. Bapat, he works his magic, and then as soon as he's done, you're up and walking. The worst part for me was receiving the freezing needle, to be perfectly honest, and that's because I have such a low pain tolerance. Even having to visit the dentist to get a filling filled it's a task for me. But the only bit of pain that I really received during treatment was the freezing, and then I felt nothing. He's one of the best Kshar Sutra doctors, in my opinion, in the world. So he was down there. He was working on the area, putting the thread in, and for me, the first treatment took maybe 10-15 minutes, but I had a seton in, so it was easy for him to find the fistula tract and take the seton out and put the Kshar Sutra thread in. But each treatment after that took maybe 10 minutes. And I think some of that time was taken up with him trying to comfort me because he'd have to give me a needle. And he's such a wonderful man that he would take the time out to comfort me, because I had to have a needle and to prepare me for that. Because I've had doctors back home in Canada who would not worry about such things, so I was grateful for that. In fact, he told me that he tries to improve his technique with every client that he has, and with me, because my pain tolerance was so low, he actually went out of his way to try to improve his technique with administering the freezing needle so that it causes less pain. And he did that new technique on me as time went on, and it did work. So after treatment, the doctor says, come to my office, and I was able to stand up right away and walk right away. Go to Dr. Bapat's office, he explains everything. He takes a picture after every thread change, after every treatment, so you're able to look at those and see the progress. And it was just wonderful to be able to sit down with a doctor, and I felt like I was speaking to an equal. I've been to a lot of doctors, a lot of specialists, and the doctors and specialists that I've been to, it seems like they're kind of up here and the patient's down here, and I have felt talked down to by my previous doctors. I never ever felt that way with Dr. Bapat. He took so much time out of his day, and this is a busy man. He has patients from all over the world coming to visit him. He took so much time out of his day after every treatment to sit down, and he would explain to me what he did, what the wound looked like, what to expect. But also, I had so many questions because I've never been to anywhere in India before, and I didn't know anybody who had been to India before. And he made sure to explain certain things about the culture, about answer any questions I had. I was just so grateful because I think that goes with his theory of treating the whole patient. And so instead of just walking into his office and he treated my fistula and that's it, and he could very well have done that, and he is one of the best at what he does, so it would have been fine. He still took the time out to reassure me and answer all of my questions regarding the culture, regarding the treatment, whatever it was, which was wonderful because he's very busy and he certainly did not have to do that. He suggested that I eat no meat, no cheese, no spicy food, and I followed those instructions. Aside from that, the main prescription was to walk, and that's it. Honestly, there was no antibiotics. There was no need for it because of the thread, which he makes his own threads, I would like everybody to know. Some doctors, I've learned, do not, but he does, so he knows exactly what the quality of the threads are, and that's very important. I could feel at times the Kshar Sutra thread working through the fistula tract, but it was absolutely nothing that I couldn't manage with painkillers. And it was by no means a constant pain or an overwhelming pain. It was more kind of like flashes of pain as things worked through. I'm very, very grateful that Dr. Bapat's, some of his previous clients guided me to him. I'm very grateful that I found him. I would recommend him to absolutely anybody. If you are looking for a cure for your issue, and if you're watching this, I know you are, and I certainly understand, this is the doctor to come see. He's one of the best at what he does. He's not only knowledgeable and extremely educated, but he is so down to earth and personable, and I can't say enough about him. He's just a great person. I absolutely have really come to admire Dr. Bapat for his skill as a doctor, but also to respect him as a human being. One thing I really admired about Dr. Bapat is his passion for curing the disease, as minimally invasive as possible, as gently as possible, but also for spreading the word so that other people know that this treatment exists. And I would like to follow in his footsteps somewhat. So I have created a blog. I have done a video log of my treatments, and I created a Kshar Sutra for Fistula's support group. So if anybody is interested in that information, you can contact Dr. Bapat, and I'm sure he would be willing to give it to you. I'm more than willing to speak with anybody who has questions, concerns. Contact Dr. Bapat. He can give you my information. I'll talk with you. I can send you a link to my Kshar Sutra for Fistula's group, and you can talk to many people who are in the stages of researching, or they're in the process of receiving treatment, or that they've been healed. This is a treatment that has healed thousands of people throughout the years, and it's been practiced for thousands of years. You don't have to feel alone. Other people have gone through this. Other people are going through this. This is a real treatment. It works. This is a legitimate doctor. And one thing that impressed me was that even though Dr. Bapat sees a lot of clients and has cured a lot of fistulas, he's still not jaded, he's still passionate, he's still compassionate, and that's not something that I could say for my doctors back home in Canada. It's just wonderful. Send Dr. Bapat an email today, explain to him what type of fistula you're suffering from. He'll get right back to you. He will have compassionate, knowledgeable advice, and I'm just grateful that I'm finally able to have my life back. Thank you, Dr. Bapat.